So glad to have you here tonight. We're here for our webinar, Court Reporting Dilemmas, You Decide. Thank you so much for joining us. Give just a few seconds for everybody to be able to pop in here.
I see some familiar names tonight. Hello, Betsy. Hi, Beverly. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. We have an exciting night for you guys tonight. I'm so excited to get started. You guys are going to love the content that we have and everything that's coming through for you. So hold on tight. We'll be able to get started very soon. Give it just a few more minutes. We're going to have a couple polls tonight as well for you guys to participate, kind of give us your thoughts and let us know where you stand on some of these topics. So very excited to hear what you have to say about that. And it looks like we're pretty good, leveling out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get started, get things kind of rolling a little bit over here. My name is Tammy Candeloro. It's nice to meet all of you that I haven't met before. We are here. This is a webinar that is approved for you to get AAERT CEUs. So the only thing we require is that your attendance be for the full hour in order to get the certificate. So I'll review with you more at the end how to get that certificate and everything. So don't worry about that. Just hang tight, enjoy the webinar, and then you'll be all set from there. So for tonight is actually going to be a follow-up, a part 2 of sorts from our last webinar, Court Reporting Dilemmas. You guys had so many questions and points of interest last time. You asked for more time with the experts, and we heeded your call, and we're presenting more scenarios and answers for you tonight. Thank you so much for all your submissions. You are amazing, and we truly appreciate your feedback, your questions, and being involved and interacting with us on our webinars. Please note, we do have the question box open tonight as well for you to submit any questions you have, and we'll do our very best to get to them tonight, or perhaps after the webinar and like a follow-up of sorts. So additionally of note, some questions we received were covered previously in our part 1 webinar of the series. So we'll not be covering them tonight, but you can check that webinar out on our website. So if you just go to BlueLedge.com, under the webinar section, you can see the Court Reporting Dilemmas, the original one. So if you don't hear your question answered tonight, by all means, please go there and you will get very amazing answers. Also, a few of the questions submitted beforehand were broad topics that would receive more justice with a focused webinar on them. So stay tuned to our social media and you'll see what we'll be breaking down for those and when. Some examples, just to whet your appetite, are finding work for someone new to the industry. What are our attorneys looking for in a digital reporter? Or what is the best way to get perfect audio? And these are just a few of your questions and topics that you guys submitted that we are looking to consider in the future. So hang tight for those. Okay, so we have a lot to cover tonight. So we're going to be bouncing around topics just a little bit to ensure all the areas receive their fair share of guru guidance. So let's get moving with it and we'll meet our wonderful panelists. Merritt, will you kick us off and introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Merritt Gilbert. I am the director of BlueLedge. I help design content and work with our instructional designers and instructors to offer training on digital reporting and legal transcription. I am currently the certification chair for AAERT. I became a CER certified in 2013. I've been in the industry for about 12 years now and very excited to share some knowledge with you tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss Amy, would you go next for us?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I am Amy Robinson. I am a certified electronic transcriber as of 2014, and I am the grading chair currently working with Merritt. And I am a proofreader / trainer currently.
Perfect.
Stuff.
Thank you. Miss Tammy, would you mind going next for us?
Absolutely. I am Tammy Holmes, and I am the court reporter manager for South Carolina Judicial Branch. So what that boils down to is I am the manager of all the court reporters in the state. I have been there 8 years, and in this position, 3. And I also do some digital recording. I will jump in wherever I'm needed, even if it means tagging exhibits in big trials. So
Perfect. I'm sure everybody appreciates that because those hefty exhibits can definitely weigh anybody down. Awesome. Jordan, would you mind going next for us?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jordan Kittrick, located in the greater New York City metro. I am a digital court reporter, so I'm certified with AART with my certified electronic reporter and my certified deposition reporter. I also work as a freelance videographer in legal as well. So I kind of represent the independent contractor side of the digital court reporting and legal videography. So rather than just working for one particular company, I actually work for multiple agencies, both remote and in person. I'm kind of the new kid on the webinar tonight. I actually got into this career by accident during pandemic. A stenographer friend of mine actually said, you should be a digital court reporter. And here I am 3 years later. So thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Love it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's find out a little bit about our audience. So we'll throw a poll out there to find out about you guys too. And we'll start by asking, what is your discipline in our industry? So we have some choices out here for you to pick. I'm coming in fast. You guys are good. You're on it. You know it. Very good. And let's see when it levels out a little bit. We'll see how many years we have most of our people coming in through here on. All right, great. Let's go ahead and end the poll. Looks like it's stabilizing out. And share the results. All right, so quite an interesting mix right here. So we have 65% agency or freelance reporters. So Jordan, I got a lot of people looking at you, I think. And then we got a lot of transcribers too, 11%. And we certainly know there's absolutely dilemmas that they face as well. Courthouse reporters and transcribers making up a hefty amount too. And then we've got management or admin at 11%. So perfect. Thank you guys. All right, I'm gonna share. We're gonna do another couple polls really quick too. I just want to see how you guys feel about things. We all have our favorites. We might love our job in total, but for first, excuse me, we'll start with the transcribers. What is your favorite type of proceeding to transcribe? So let's see what you guys have to say about that. Some juicy ones, maybe some are a little bit slower. The hardest ones for me were when it was on and on about their financial background and you just hear account numbers and dates all the time. Okay, so it looks like this one's settled out a little bit. Let me go ahead and share the results on this one. All right, depositions coming in with a hard 51%. That's
Q&A.
Yeah, right.
Probably, there you go.
That's true, right? And the EUO is right behind it too. So very great. And administrative hearings are actually on the lower end. It's funny. That's actually probably one of my favorite. I like the administrative hearings. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is we'll ask the digital reporters. So let me go back and pull this one up for us. What's your favorite type of proceeding to cover as a digital reporter? Or a reporter in general, if we have other reporters with us. Sorry. Just rolls off my tongue so much. All right, they're coming through. I won't cheat and tell you guys how it's leveling out yet. All right, here we go. I'm going to end the poll and share. Whopping one on the depositions too. Everybody loves those depos, which is good because there's a million of them, right? Yeah. All right, very good. Very interesting results. Thank you guys for sharing with that. So I'll stop sharing those. And then we'll get started on some of our other questions and dilemmas you guys submitted. So one of the ones submitted that I thought actually kind of encompassed everything very well we would start with is, where do I go to discuss questions? So Merritt, how can you help someone out? Where do they turn besides our webinars?
Webinar is a great place, but yeah, there are a couple places that you can go. So first, you have our National Association, AAERT. You can become a member, network with other members, find mentors that way. There's also a Facebook AAERT members group, and there's also other Facebook digital reporting or transcription groups where people post questions to one another. That's super helpful. Yeah, trying to think of another one. Tamara, was there another one we spoke about?
I definitely like how you pointed on the social media, and even more specifically too to the AAERT membership one, because you're getting people who are in the know and in the network with everybody. So I love that, just networking with everyone and getting to know your community. I think that's a great tip for sure. All right, well, so let's bounce over then to the next one. So Jordan, we're going to kick you off on some situational questions first. So on the first one, okay, here's the scenario. Only the witness has arrived on Zoom, and he or she starts talking about the case and asking questions. As a digital reporter, how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, first, one of the things that can happen is sometimes, especially if it's a non-party witness, they will actually show up unrepresented. So one of the first things I'll ask them is, do you have a member of counsel that will be joining on your behalf? If they say yes, I say, great. I would like to wait until your counsel has arrived before we discuss anything further. And usually that kind of just stops the conversation there. It is nice when the witness arrives early over a remote proceeding, because I do like to do an audio and video check first. So I will have some form of a conversation. How are you today? Can you hear me? Is your cell phone charged, or is there enough light in the room? Preliminary stuff. But anything else like that, I will just wait for their counsel to arrive. If they happen to be being pro se, or they're not being represented in the case, I will say, okay, there was an attorney that scheduled this proceeding with you. You probably talked to them on the phone. They're not here yet. They have instructions for you. Let's wait until they're here. And then again, the witness usually goes, oh, okay. And that usually kind of ends it.
Oh, perfect. I love that. Great. All the way around. I like how you covered the multiple scenarios. Thank you for that. All right. So we're going to head over now to Tammy in the courtroom. So as a transcriptionist, log notes are very important, but the quality sometimes can vary. So how can that be addressed with the court or court clerk?
So you're right. Log notes are so important. We are actually having some issues with those right now with some of our newer digital court reporters. In our courtrooms, we train them. They go through 3 weeks of training, and they are trained on what to capture. As far as a court clerk, it would be very important for them to give the dockets ahead of time, so that our digital court reporters can put down who the attorneys are, who the plaintiff is, who the attorney is, the judge, all parties to that case. Those notes are so important. And really that's the most important thing a clerk can do is really give dockets ahead of time to our court reporters.
Okay, perfect. And then if the log notes maybe aren't meeting quite up to what the transcriptionist feels like they need, is that something communicated in the inside, like through management and kind of work through, or is there a way to maybe best handle that?
It is, yes, please communicate that through management. I have transcriptionists now that will email me and give me examples of things, and we go to the digital court reporter and address those.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, less is better. In log notes, I say more is better. The more you capture, the better your transcriptionist will, will be able to provide the transcript on a verbatim basis.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. And I've seen that firsthand too. So I love that. So notes, more is better. Don't hold back. All right.
And the
So
digital, oh, sorry, I wanted to add one thing. As the digital reporter, even if the clerk doesn't provide those things, it is up to you as the digital reporter to get those things. So even if before or after, and making sure that all the proper nouns and the appearances and everything is there and accurate. But the log notes, it's all about prioritizing, figuring out what is going to really help the transcriptionist. So sometimes you can tell, like, they're not going to have a super hard time figuring out who's speaking during witness testimony, because like I said before, Q&A, but it's going to be harder to tell who's speaking when maybe somebody objects and there's multiple parties. So those speaker designations, very, very important. Or when exhibits are marked, making sure you get the exhibit number and the description and those things that might be harder for the transcriptionist. For example, if they didn't even say the exhibit description, but you're required to get the description for the transcript, but you see in the room, it's an email, some type of description. Add that to your notes. The transcriptionist will be very, very thankful.
true. I love that. And even too, that's one nice thing about remote is when they do pull the exhibits up, a lot of times you can tell the total number of pages. Love to recommend to jot that down because that helps production tremendously too. So no, great point. Okay, so Merritt, why I got you here. In a deposition, who is actually responsible for submitting the final transcript and or the errata sheet to the court?
Okay, so filing transcripts and erratas, generally that's managed by the law firm, the attorneys, their paralegals. There might be some areas or states where maybe the court reporter or the court reporting office does it, but generally it's, I think Texas might be one of those states, but in most states, it's the attorney.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we're going to pop a poll question real quick to you in the audience, and we're going to ask you, what would you decide? Okay, so let me launch it. What if the judge says it is okay for 2 reporters to stay on the proceeding? What would you answer? You got 3 choices here, and nobody will know, as you see in the other polls, we don't know who answered what. We just get total counts, so be brave, put a vote in and see where it lands. This scenario has definitely happened. It's happened to me before too, and I know it's happened to the person who submitted this question too. All right, looks like it's steadied out, so let's share the results. All right, so 35% say you should keep both and proceed. The judge can decide for their court. 56% you should speak up. You should never have more than 1 official transcript. And 8%, can I just magically disappear somehow? I thought more would want to disappear personally. I did when it happened. Tammy, are you able to help give some insight? How do you think? What would you say on this one?
Yes, definitely. And I've had this happen several times where attorneys want to hire their own court reporters. Well, in our state courts here in South Carolina, our court reporter is, their transcript is the record. They are the official court reporter. So if 2 court reporters are there, that is fine, just as long as the attorneys know that their court reporter's transcript is for their benefit only, that if they're going to file an appeal or need the official record for any reason, that will come from our court reporter.
Okay, perfect. And so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but say maybe that's not clarified or discussed. Is it necessary for the reporter to speak up and try to clarify if it's clear who's the official court reporter or who's not? Or how does that happen maybe in some situations where maybe the judge doesn't address it, or the state maybe it isn't obvious, like South Carolina?
The judge should address it.
Okay.
But if not, the court reporter definitely should ask the judge to address that.
Okay.
Just so, and of course, a lot of my court reporters speak up because they've been in court forever. But they will speak up and say, you know, court administration said, you're welcome to stay, but the official court record will be my transcript.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And I don't want to harp on it too much, but just I know a lot of people get nervous who maybe aren't in courtrooms all the time. Maybe they're independent contractors and they're doing some hearings here and there. So if they're going to speak up and say that to the judge, just would address the judge, Your Honor, could we please say who the official court reporter is, or is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go on a little bit of a broader question. And here's a wonderful one submitted. Have there been any moments where your ability to stay unbiased has been tested? So let's start with Amy. Can you give us your situation?
Sure. You know, transcribing, it's kind of a little bit easier. I'm not in the room. I'm not seeing faces. I'm just listening to what's in my ears and I'm typing out what they say. But you know, when there's a situation where an attorney comes back to you, I put an indiscernible in there, and an attorney comes back to me and says, hey, I'm pretty sure that they said this. It's like, I'll listen to it again. I'll check and make sure, but it's still my certification at the end of the day that's on the transcript. And I'm saying, these are the words that I heard. These are the words that I think are the right ones. And so I kind of have to stand my ground and say, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I can't do that. In order to fully remain unbiased, I have to type what I heard, and I didn't hear that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Great example. Jordan, how about you? Do you have an example of a time where you felt in a spot?
Yeah, actually, just recently it happened to me. You know, it can be so challenging in our profession because we almost want to be the judge, especially if we're following a case and we're deposing multiple people. But at the end of the day, we are a neutral third party and we're just observing, listening, and making the record. So I was on a very, very high profile case recently that there are Netflix documentaries about. And at the wrap up of one of the main witnesses, her attorney approached me and we were alone in a room. No one ever would have known what I had to say. And she said to me, how do you think we did? How do you think it went? And I just said to her, I am so sorry. I would love to tell you my opinion, but you know I can't, and you know I have to be neutral. And she immediately apologized. She said, Jordan, you know what? I'm so sorry. We've been here together for 8 hours today. I feel comfortable with you. I shouldn't have asked you. I overstepped. And then I said, don't worry about it. I said, trust me, it's killing me because I would love to talk about the case with you. I said, I just can't. And she said, don't worry about it. I was asked back 2 weeks later for the plaintiff or the defendant in that case. And we worked together again, same attorney. And at the end of the day, she goes, listen, I'm not going to ask you because I know what happened last time, but she's like, again, I appreciate all your work and I appreciate you being neutral here. So mutual level of respect, and any good attorney is going to know that they can't ask you that, but it's hard because emotionally you get very involved with some of these cases, but you just have to state who you are and what our job is, which is neutrality.
Yeah. Oh, great one. And that's a great point too. I mean, sometimes you just spend a lot of time with these people and you do start to feel like your colleagues or different things, but it's a different mix. It's not that. So I appreciate you bringing that out.
And I was actually going to say, to follow up, the next time I went back 2 weeks later, she walked into the depot room and said, hi, friend. That's how she greeted me, which was, again, very, very sweet. But I'm also like, this is so awkward.
I'm not your friend.
But other attorneys are there and I don't want them to think, you know,
Yes.
I'm going out for drinks with this attorney and we're talking about the case. So again, it's just about remaining very, very neutral.
Well, kudos to you for staying strong because that's hard. And when someone else is being friendly, it's human nature to want to be friendly back and reciprocate full force. So that took a lot of strength. That's really great. See, you might be younger in years in the industry for some, but you still have the experience and the professionalism. How about you, Miss Tammy? Do you have anything on these lines where you feel like you've been tested?
Yes. Again, I was in a high profile case here in South Carolina that lasted several weeks. And I had my court reporters there taking the record. I was operating the digital system and also really just there to do whatever was needed. So I gave a lot of time to both sides. I spent a lot of time with everybody that was involved. And of course, we tell our court reporters, you should act like you're a piece of furniture, because no expression on your face, you keep it, you keep it neutral.
Yeah.
During this trial, it was, there were some moments where I had to remind myself, hey, you cannot show expression and you have no feelings in this case.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to not show emotion on some of, because it was a very devastating case.
Hmm. Yeah. And we're human, but you
Right.
reel it in, you learn, and you move forward. I love it.
It made me realize I was human.
The struggle, right? The struggle's real.
Not just a piece of furniture.
Yeah, it's not just a
We
piece of
try.
furniture.
We try.
Fake it till you make it. I mean, you could fake it till you're furniture. Okay. All right, Mara, I'm going to throw this one to you. Okay. So as more stenographic firms begin to bring in digitals, do you have any advice for when a digital arrives at a job to find that the attorneys were expecting a stenographer or a voice writer?
Yes, absolutely. That was me when I first started as a digital reporter. Majority of the time, they never said anything about my equipment being different. But if they did say something, then I would assure them that the final product, what they receive, the official transcript will be verbatim, accurate. It'll be just what they were used to expecting from their previous reporters. And, I am still here. I'm officiating this proceeding. I'm still going to be managing your exhibits and making sure everything is organized. I'll be swearing in the witness. I'll still be handling everything that you were used to from any previous reporter you worked with. So usually once I explain those things, it makes them feel at ease, and just, the way your professionalism also, I think, helps in those situations as well.
Yes, the confidence you carry with how you're responding. How do you, if it comes down to it where you have to explain the difference between digital court reporter and steno, how would you do that?
I always try to bring it back to the end product being the same, because the method of capturing the record is different, but the product is the same.
Perfect.
So that's where I would just bring it back.
Okay, great. And I'm going to hang you on one more. Sorry.
Oh,
Another question that was asked. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, do you mind if I add that to what Merritt just mentioned?
Go for it,
from what I experience a lot. I just let the attorneys know too, because I do often get objections with remote proceedings. They'll say, are you a stenographer? I'm typing, you're gonna get a transcript. If you need something read back or repeated, let me know. You will hear everything clearly. And that is a big assurance, because a lot of attorneys are under the misconception we're hitting record and we're just, like hanging out, taking a nap. And so when I tell them, listen, if you need a read back, I'm going to give that to you immediately. If you need your exhibits marked, I'm going to do that. If you need, I let them know everything they need is going to be covered. That really reassures them that it's not just a tape recording and that everything's going to be there. In addition to what Merritt mentioned, a certified transcript.
Amazing. Love it. Okay.
Tamara,
So then now,
can I
yeah,
speak on that?
please.
Just
This is a big
as-
question. So yes, by all means, please.
In the courtroom setting, and digital is still fairly new for South Carolina, even though we've had it for several years. I still get judges who look at their schedule and see that they have a digital court reporter scheduled to be with them. They or their AA will call me and say, I need a live court reporter. It drives me insane. And depending on what day it is and whether I've had 1 or 2 cups of coffee, I like to say, I promise you, the court reporter that is with you will be breathing. They will be
Yeah.
live, you know. And it's really hard for judges to make I don't know, just for them to understand a digital court reporter is highly qualified just as a traditional court reporter, and they are going to take your record. You know, you're going to have a great court record at the end of the day. So, you know, and I'm sorry, but wait until you see
They're
the
just
end
used
result.
to it, and sometimes people just, they don't know, so that's why we have to explain it to them.
Yes,
True.
yes.
You know. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think to add to that, a lot of unfortunately the nature of social media, there are stenographic court reporting social media sites that hate on us, we'll say, and they're spreading around, you know, old folklore from 15 years ago that just doesn't exist anymore. How good our technology is, how well the AI is, that we have a main recorder, a backup recorder, sometimes a third recorder, and they don't know any of that. And again, I tell them, I'm like, I'm typing, you will hear me typing the whole day. So all of that reassures them.
Well,
Great.
yeah,
Go ahead.
like that's something I just think about, like saying you're a digital recorder. I'm a digital reporter, because a recorder is a digital like backup recorder. It's kind of how I think of it, and it's not just you know hitting, like Jordan said, hitting play and walking away. We're monitoring,
Yeah.
confidence monitoring. We didn't even mention that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I love that answers about how to explain to attorney who might be, you know, not understanding going through as well. And we also talked a little bit about explaining to, you know, if it is another reporter, stenographer, what if the stenographer is the one that's asking you to leave? So how would you handle that? Merritt, do you have any tips for that?
It's always going to be up to whoever hired me.
Okay.
Because I worked in the freelance market as well, to tell me whether or not I would be leaving. But I was always told that it was whoever got there first would be the one to stay, but it is ultimately up to the attorneys. And if the attorney who hired me tells me that I can leave, then that's what I'll do. Otherwise, I'm staying.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, okay, we're going to jump over to Amy on some transcriptionist questions. So, as a transcriptionist, what do you prefer, a reporter do when a witness answers non-verbally?
Well, in a perfect world, you're going to stand up, you're going to shout, you're going to say, hey, you got to answer out loud. But I know that that's not really realistic.
Throw something at the screen, get their attention.
Yeah, you know, yelling loudly. Realistically, though, you know, training at the beginning of your day, your session, whatever, just reminding them, I'm recording this, or I'm reporting this, and I need you to answer verbally, because when we do the transcript, they're not going to hear or see what I see. And of course, you know, training the attorneys, training the judges, making sure that if I can't hear an answer on the recording, I can't type that word. So it just makes a much clearer transcript all the way around. For it to, so, and even if it's in the log notes, I can't type that if I don't hear it. So yeah, right. you may put in there was a nod or yes or whatever, but if I don't hear it in my ear, I can't type it. It's my certification that's going on there. I'm going to say that over and over and over. It's my certification that goes on there, and my certification means something to me. So I can't do it if I don't hear it.
Very important part. I'm so glad you brought that up. Just because it's in the log notes that they said nod or this or that, that doesn't mean it makes it in the transcript. So the other point you brought up, great, right on point. Just don't be shy. You got to just say something right then and have them repeat it. If you wait too long, then it's going to be confusing and you might not get exactly what that was intended to happen. Same flavor of the question, but this one now is asking, what do you prefer the reporter do when the witness answers verbally, but with a uh-huh or a uh-uh?
Again, shout yes or no, but realistically, that's what I want you to do, is jump in and say was that a yes or was that a no? But 97% of the time I can tell what is being said, but I'm going to type it like that. I'm going to type, and I'm not going to assume that that means yes. I'm going to type, So
Yeah. And
hopefully,
sometimes it can be hard to tell sorry.
yes, exactly. It can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. Merritt, do you have a tip for a way to maybe hone in on it if they are saying it? I mean, would you
It's
address
like
it
you
to the
knew I had something on my mind because I what helps if you're feeling like, oh, the attorney is annoyed with me interrupting, is to explain, like, it will make the transcript, like Amy said, so much more clear when somebody is reading it. It's reminding them that you're trying to help them ultimately have a transcript that they can fully understand and just, use for impeachment purposes. Like if he says, he could be like, well, I meant, or, so it's just
Very
better to
good
remind them why you have to interrupt.
Great.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
Is that I have never, ever, ever, ever had an attorney say, court reporter, keep your mouth shut. They'll never say that. They actually will say, thank you for the reminder, court reporter. Witness, could you please make sure that you're verbal? The attorneys want you to do it. They're actually expecting you to do it because they know that that's your job. So please do not be afraid to speak up. And it can get hard because you'll remind them once or twice. And then you, as a reporter, I'm kind of like sick of saying yes or no. And we keep, but you have to remind people.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And the attorneys have so much going on. They're trying to think about the question, the next answer. I mean, and vice versa. They might not always catch it. Like you said, it's your job to catch it and to speak up. So great point.
And one
Thank you for
last thing,
adding.
I know that opinions differ from different regions on how to handle nonverbal situations. So ask your manager what they prefer you to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so let's hop back over into the courtroom world. So how would you handle this if a situation where someone you know personally and very well appears in the courtroom that you're recording or reporting in? Tammy?
Well, if it was me, I would definitely let the judge know. And of course, get the judge's advice, and tell the attorneys, and see if they want to conflict me out.
Okay.
If I had a choice, I would conflict myself out. But
Okay.
a lot of times it's totally up to the judge and the attorneys. But yes, I would definitely make it known.
Okay. Just by going to the judge personally, like kind of saying something, or?
Right. I would take it to the judge before I took it to the attorneys, and get the judge's advice, and, and let him either let me tell the attorneys, or he or she can let the attorneys know to make sure there's not going to be a conflict, or can we reschedule this because our court reporter wants to conflict herself out.
Okay, all right, great. And Jordan, I'll ask you the same thing then for a deposition. How would you handle that if someone walks in that you know?
Yeah, I would kind of stick to exactly what Tammy said. I would, with depositions ahead of time and in the freelance work, we do get our captions for the most part the night before. So we're going to see the plaintiff side, the defendant side, and we're going to know who's being deposed. I think in the courtroom world, that's not always the case. So if I was to see the night before I'm given a job who the witness is and I know them, I would just contact my agency and just say, conflict out. I do not feel comfortable deposing this person. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to throw out another poll question and see what would you decide. Okay, so this one we're going to ask, let me launch it for you. An attorney asked you to remove curse words from the transcript. What would you do? Let's see how everyone answers this one. It's always interesting when you hear it as a reporter, but even more so when you're typing it. Feels more real when you're writing it down and jotting the line. Oh, okay. All right. We're getting a heavy hitter on one particular answer, just saying. All right, it's leveled out. Let's pop it in here and share the results. So 81% tell the attorney you cannot change what was said and must keep the curse words on the transcript. Amy, how'd they do? What do you vote?
I vote the same way.
Yay!
And that's a tough one. I don't use curse words at all. And so, you know, I hear them and I have to type them out. And that's a tough thing to do for someone that doesn't say bad words. But it's my certification that's at the end. So I have to type what's
Have
said,
to do.
no matter what.
All right. Okay, so let's hop over then, and we'll say in a coming in for a deposition or something like that. Jordan, I'm going to kick this one over to you. So how do you handle it when an attorney wants to make a statement on the record and they don't wait for you to announce that we are on the record and they just start going?
I just said, I'm sorry, I wasn't ready. Please start again. That's it.
Even if they've gotten kind of far into it, or is there a limit to where you would speak up or say something?
I mean, if my capture software isn't recording, there's no record of it. Actually something like that kind of happened to me today. I was in a situation where the attorneys kept doing this on the record, off the record, like really, they'll do it really fast on Zoom. They'll be like, off the record, hey, something. Okay, yeah, on the record. And they'll just so quick. So normally I'll just keep my software going and I'll just put off the record. But they did it to me one time today where I stopped my software because they're like, oh, we got to look into something. And then I'm like, okay, good, we've agreed. And he went into a question and I said, counsel, I wasn't ready. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I hit record and I said, time is 2:00 on the record. Please ask again. So yeah, again, it's our job to be capturing it. So if they're talking without our devices recording, there is no record. It doesn't exist. But it can be hard because you have to just tell them to put the brakes on and just say, I wasn't ready. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And it can be hard. And what I used to try to tell myself to give myself that extra confidence to do it is it's hard, but it's much easier than if you don't say something and you have to try to rectify it after the fact. And maybe something wasn't captured that they need, or any different scenarios coming through. It's much harder and much more awkward to say that you didn't handle it right off. So throw yourself out there.
I was going to say a scenario this is going to happen a lot, which I'm sure the Q&A will go on fire, is when you have to do readbacks or playbacks because you're stopping your main audio source. You're doing your playback or readback. As soon as the attorneys hear what they want to hear, they continue. Specifically, if it's they need a question repeated and then the witness is supposed to wait to hear you ask the question and then answer, immediately the witness will start answering. And I'm still looking at the notes. I have to like move my mouse over, click, wait for my software, start my annotation. So I've actually missed an entire answer or question just because they go too quickly. And that was on me. That was my mistake. I should have advised them after the readback, playback, I need a moment. Okay, go. So that is the benefit of having a backup recorder going at all times. My backup luckily caught it. I went, listened to my backup audio, and I put it in my transcription notes so that hopefully Amy or whoever found it was like, oh, this is what Jordan missed. Hopefully, sorry, Amy.
Gotta love the log notes, right back around to the log notes, right? So important. Okay. All right. I have a scenario that happened to someone, Tammy, and we're going to ask your opinion on how she could have handled it. Okay. So, or it might have been a he. I'm sorry. I don't remember which. Okay. So I was doing a trial where the witness and attorney started swearing at each other, and the attorney interrupted the witness, who was still screaming, and yelled at me to read back what the insult was so he could respond. Now, in this situation, the judge jumped in and shut it down. But what could the reporter have done in that situation?
Because it is a courtroom and the judge is in control of that courtroom, you know, a lot of times court reporters like to think they're in control of the courtroom, but especially those that have been doing this for a long time. The judge is in control of the courtroom. As a court reporter, I'm just keeping up. I'm just like, you know, keeping up with who's saying what, and look at the judge and say, you know, can you stop this?
Yeah. Not verbally, but cues, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
You,
yes.
if a court reporter works with a judge a good bit, they have their little eye contacts, they have their facial expressions, they know what each other are thinking. So that makes it a lot easier. But yeah, it's, as a court reporter in the courtroom, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do except for look at the judge, mouth to the judge or something, please stop this, or, give the judge the question look as to what in the world are they doing and why are you letting this go on? But, as a court reporter,
Mhm.
I'm taking it down because it's on the record until the judge says this is not on the record.
Okay, great. All right. So staying on the topic of readbacks, but in a different way. So an opposing counsel wants you to search for and read back 15 questions, and the taking attorney says no. Jordan, what do you do?
Yeah, I've had this happen. It's awful.
Oh no.
Honestly, I really do stay quiet until absolutely necessary. Because sometimes even with readbacks, for example, the witness will say, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it? I do not do anything until the attorney says, Miss Court Reporter, please read that back. Because quite often they'll just say, oh, well, let me rephrase that, because sometimes the form of the question doesn't make any sense, more often than not. Yeah, I had an instance where an attorney wanted me to go back like an hour and a half. So they basically wanted testimony restated, because earlier in the morning, the witness said something. Now, then after lunch, they're saying something different. So it was so far back, and they said, well, let's have the court reporter get it for us. And I just said, we need to go off the record. We went off the record. I said, you know what? It's going to take me a couple of minutes to find that. And they were insistent. So I said, okay. So I went back to earlier in the testimony. I found it. I listened to the audio. I wrote out all the questions and answers, and then I did read it back to them. This was all off the record. So that is something you're going to want to clarify, because if they want, I mean, you can't do it on the record. Even a stenographer would never do that on the record. They can't go back to the morning transcript that's not done and try to, you do comply. If the attorney that ordered you asks you to do something like that, it's within their rights. So I just had to make sure that we were off the record and I had time to do it. I think Merritt might have more clarification on that, or I don't know, maybe not.
You're on the same.
I think it can be really hard to find something from a long time ago. It can be just as hard for a digital reporter as it is for a stenographer. But yeah, if you can ask them to just going off the record is perfect in this scenario, because then you can have some time where not everybody is putting so many eyes on you to find it immediately. And ideally, maybe they even like go to the restroom for a minute so that you can look it up. But yeah, that's why notes are important.
Yeah.
I think part of this one that made it hard, sorry, just to clarify really quick too, is that one attorney wanted the read back and the other one said no. So who do you listen to on that one? Merritt, you or Jordan, if you ever.
I mean, in that case, whenever you get counsel that's torn and kind of opposing, I would just say, if you need me to do that, I will need a break and we need to go off the record. And then let them decide if we're going to go off the record, because that is going to take quite a bit of, it can take you a lot of work, because you got to figure out the exact phrasing. And if you didn't get it in your annotations, finding it is almost impossible.
But as far as them disagreeing, I would just let them come to a conclusion. I'm sure they would.
I mean, eventually, if they don't agree, one of them's going to call it and halt the deposition, maybe get a ruling and come back or something, right? But at least you're not the one choosing a side to listen to. Logical?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay. All right. So what am I supposed to do when an attorney is clearly harassing a witness? Merritt, what would a reporter do?
Unfortunately, we can't do anything. We are neutral parties. We can't get involved. And I know we've talked about that being difficult, but yeah, we even if you saw an attorney coaching the witness on how to answer. Like, you still can't get involved, and you just take down the spoken word.
Okay. All right. We're going to throw another poll. This is our last one we got for you guys to give us your answers. What would you decide? So you are, oh, let me throw it up so you have it at the same time. Sorry. So hold on. Bear with me. It is not letting me do it. Hold on 1 second. Let me try one more time this way. No, it's not. Okay. Here's the question we were going to ask. Okay. You are the reporter covering a remote proceeding. The witness was having internet issues, so they've already switched to phone audio, but the phone audio is still unclear every time the witness speaks. So what would you do with that? Jordan, do you have any tips?
Yep, this is every day of the life of a remote court reporter. Anytime a person I see, Merritt's iPhone is in the waiting room, I know it's going to be a long day. A lot of depositions do happen over cell phones. So one of the most important things before you go on the record, do an audio and video check. Tell the attorneys, hey, we're not on the record yet. I already can't hear the witness. What do you want to do? You immediately start your troubleshooting. Have the witness call in over their cellular network. Again, our job is to capture the audio for the record. If we don't have audio, we can't do that. So I will try my best to struggle through it a little bit, but I usually will say, counsel, I need to go off the record. I'm really sorry, but the witness's answers are unclear. Sometimes attorneys will come back with, well, read me back what they said, and I'll attempt to. And when they see that I can't even get anything clear, they'll know. Unfortunately, sometimes they have to bust, or they may ask their witness to move to another location or get a different device.
Okay, great advice.
This was many years ago. It was an emergency hearing or something happened where it was me just going to be telephonic with the judge and the two attorneys. And the connection was just really bad. I could not hear. I kept on interrupting. I'm so sorry. I didn't get that. Can you repeat yours? I probably interrupted 6 times. And then I just was like, I'm so sorry. If we keep going, I'm not going to get a clear record. So how do you want to proceed? And they said they wanted to proceed. I was like, okay, do you want me to keep interrupting every time somebody speaks? They're like, no, we're just going to keep going. And I said that on the record, and they said that on the record. So that was a very important piece here. So when that transcript was ordered, it was very clear that I did what I could, and it was not going to be a good transcript.
Great advice.
So I was just going to say to add, last week I had a deposition where both the attorney and the witness were outside. So I've never had a twofer. I usually get a witness outside, but his attorney was with him outside. It was a unique situation where he was in a nursing home and he had a roommate, so they couldn't be present. And we started outside. Then we moved to the lawyer's car with the air conditioning on because it got hot. Then we moved to the rec room in the nursing home basement because the car was using too much gas. We moved locations 4 times, but every time the audio started getting bad, I said to his attorney, I'm struggling. I can't hear you. It's going to affect the record. And we would stop. We'd take a 10-minute and they'd move locations. So we went 4 locations, but we got clear audio.
Great. Very important. Got to get that audio, which Amy definitely appreciates all your efforts for that. Speaking of which, I'm throwing you some transcription questions coming at you. As a transcriber, if the hearing or trial is not declared off the record, the person who submitted this question, I think you should type subsequent sidebars. What are your thoughts, Amy? Would you agree?
Yep. If it's on the record, you type it, period. The only time that I would not type something if they did not specifically tell me that it was off the record was if the judge was not on the bench. And that's obviously for a trial. But if the judge is not on the bench, then they're not on the record. There's not a record if there's not a judge. But if it's a deposition, if they don't say it's off the record, it's getting typed. So make sure I can't hear it. With that being said, though, if it's supposed to be on the record, make sure I can hear it. How many times have we typed sidebars where it's just like,
right?
like,
I've heard nightmares,
Yeah.
sidebar.
oh,
Yeah.
sidebars can be real nightmares.
Yeah.
Can I ask Amy actually a question about this as a DR? It would really help me out. Amy,
Love
what do you do? So it'll happen quite oftenly. There'll be a pause and someone will walk into the lawyer's office. So let's say somebody, and you'll hear, what do you want for lunch? Do you want a turkey? Yeah, I got a turkey sandwich. And it's still on the record and they don't realize what we're doing. I will often type off the record ordered lunch. Would you take my notes for that? Or would you, what would you do? Because I never know what to do when that happens.
So the way that I have been trained, I do not know if this is the correct way, but we are talking about this deposition, this trial,
Yeah.
this situation. So anything that's not pertinent to that is extra conversation.
Okay.
So you might do an off the record conversation, a parenthetical for that, or I think that's what I would do, an off the record conversation and then jump right back in, because it's not, turkey sandwiches have nothing to do.
Yeah,
with
I'm
you
doing a
killing-
car accident. The attorneys forget because they're on Zoom. People walk in and their paralegal will hand them a piece of paper and they'll go, no, fax it back and hand it back. Okay, next question is, and
Yeah.
so we as the DR, we're there and we know they don't want that on the record, but they forget they're on Zoom.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I've seen before too, and Merritt, please correct me if you have other thoughts, where it also could be put in like unidentified speaker, and then you could type exactly what was said
Yep.
to show it's not a party in the case, but someone else walked in and said something.
We
Would
have
it be-
done that too. Yep.
Would it be better if we just said, counsel, we're still on the record? Would it be better if I just remind him?
The one thing I wanted to chime in was, you could say, excuse me, can I, is that person gonna be in the room? Can I have their name? Like, let them know, like,
Okay.
if you're still on, yeah, I like yours better. They're like just saying, are we still on the record? But this being a remote proceeding, I want to just remind everyone, what if that paralegal was sitting in there the whole time? And
I
then,
know.
so you have to make sure that like they truly did just walk in and walk right back out. Because if they're just sitting in there and it's a deposition, they need to be on the appearance page as an also present.
And so
So
this is the thing is, yeah, as the DR there, we see their office and I'll literally see a person walk in, talk, and then walk out. And I know they're just getting a lunch order. But for you, the transcriptionist, you're like, who's this voice? What's a
Yeah.
turkey
No.
sandwich have to do
Yeah.
with a hit in the rear on, the
Yes.
highway? I don't know.
Notes. And I have another, go ahead, Amy.
That's another thing that I try to train my transcriptionists that I'm training to do, is that you have to engage your brain while you are typing. You can't just mindlessly type out the words. Like you just said, what does a turkey sandwich have to do with a car accident or an axe murder or any of those things? So you kind of have to keep your brain engaged and ask those questions like, was that meant to be on the record? Do I need to do this parenthetical here? Who was that person? Okay, this is an unidentified person, so that you got to be engaged enough so you can go back to the person that hired you, your agency, or the court reporter that you're working for, and ask them, do you want that on the record? That doesn't make sense to be on the record. Don't be afraid to ask those questions to the people that you are hired by.
Great. Another question too, actually submitted by Dawn in the question box. So she said this is for you, Amy. She can keep up with the deposition in terms of annotations. She does a spelling sheet also for the transcription. But do you really look at the annotations and go back to those? Are you only looking at notes, or does it all their effort they put into annotations, does it pay off?
Yes, it
Okay.
absolutely positively does. And one of the other questions that we had talked about was the note section. Yes, I use all of that. If you give me the information, I am reading every little bit that you give me, because it helps me figure out who the names are, who the spellings that you give me. It helps me to know how many people are there. If there's 4 attorneys there and only 2 of them are talking, and suddenly I get this random third voice, at least I know that there's 4 people there. And so now I know that that is probably one of those other 2. I may not know which one it is, but at least
Hopefully
I know
you
it's one
do.
of those. Hopefully
Yeah.
the notes are really clear and I can get all of that. Yes, I scour
Okay.
every bit of paper that you guys send me.
Okay. And we are getting really close on time. I want to try to squeeze in a couple more questions. So I want to make sure to get a court one in real quick, Tammy, if you don't mind. So how do you handle it in a hearing where the judge is participating in crosstalk that's affecting the maintenance of a clear record?
How I would handle that and how I actually tell the court reporters to handle that is you need to look at the judge and just let the judge know that you cannot capture all of everybody talking. You know, he needs to narrow that down to one. You know, if I was the court reporter in that courtroom, I would look at the judge and I would say, I can't capture all, everybody talking over each other.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and ask,
Even-
do you want this on the record? Because it's not going to be a clear record if you don't stop, I mean.
Okay. So even though it's the judge, still appropriate for you to
Absolutely.
speak up and say something.
Yes.
Okay. Amy, same kind of thing. So in this scenario, but on the transcript side, how do you handle it when the digital reporter didn't interrupt speakers when they're cross-talking? Can you maybe like somewhat briefly give us an instance of what ends up being on the transcript when this happens? Why is it so important?
Because you're going to make me cry and pull out my hair, literally.
Granted.
I will isolate the channels if you've got 4 or 8 channels set for me, and hopefully I can get it by isolating the channels. If I can't, it's going to get an indiscernible. I'm going to type everything that I can hear for the people that I can hear. But there's always those people that are literally talking over each other and you cannot figure out what's being said.
Yeah.
And I'll use an indiscernible. I have a couple of my people that ask me to do simultaneous speech instead. I don't prefer that one, but it works for those people. But either simultaneous speech or an indiscernible is
Okay.
what I would do. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so
Amy,
much.
I am so happy that you said that because I have excellent transcriptionists and court reporters who type for me for the digital transcripts. And a lot of them are like, oh, I had to put a discernible in because, people were talking over each other and I said, it happens, sometimes it just happens. No matter how good they are, you can't isolate some things. So thank you, Amy, for saying that. I appreciate it.
I do too. We are at the end of our time, and I know, please forgive us. We still have more questions we weren't able to get to. There's so many great points on this. Out of respect for everybody's time, though, we do want to hold to what we had as our time commitment. But we have more. We can answer in other ways for you. So definitely don't be discouraged. We'll get the answers that you're looking for, and you'll see different ways that we can do that for you. So I want to thank you so much for all your questions and participation. Definitely not in vain. We'll get it to you. Let me just wrap up very quickly. Say the survey. You were going to send out a survey for this webinar, and it's going to be sent out to you tomorrow on July 14th. We encourage you to fill it out immediately, but we will give you 6 days to do so. Okay, so we're going to close the survey submission on Thursday, 7/20. After we have all submissions and the survey is closed on 7/20, we will then send your CEU certificates out to you. So you will get your certificates. If you stayed for the full hour and you filled out your survey, you'll get your certificates on Friday, 7/21. Okay, so keep your eyes out, emails coming from that, all the information you'll see from that. It'll be coming from info@blueledge.com. We will be posting the recording of this on our website. So if there's any of it you want to hear more of, or you want to catch again, or you want to share with your friends, by all means, it's out there. You can catch it in addition to the part 1 that we had on April 20th. So check that out. And besides that, you guys keep learning. Make sure you network with your peers. Great way to get more information and improve our skills, also improve our industry and grow it and get more people into this amazing career that we have. So we thank you so much. Thank you guys so much to our panel. You guys are amazing. Thank you for your time and your insight. They're not always easy answers, and you guys did amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
You have a good
Everybody
night.
have a good night. All right,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.